So we do Netivot Shalom Sefer Shemot Parashat Truma, and the page is resigned. עיקר שכינה בתחתונים הייתה. So the main place for the Shechina to be is in the lower ones. In the Midrash Shir HaShirim, on the pasuk, it says, "Bati legani achuti kala, bati legani." Right? It says, "Bati legani en ktiv." Right? "Bati lagan en ktiv kan ela legani." I didn't come to the garden, to my garden. Right? למקום שהיה עיקרי מתחילה, like the main place in the beginning. And עיקר שכינה בתחתונים הייתה, right? So we're learning חסידות. So הוא הדבר, right? It says in בראשית, וישמעו את כל האלוקים, right? כל השם אלוקים יתהלך בגן, right? So in Sefer Bereshit, when Hashem created the world and created the Gan Eden, right? So it says that the voice or the sound of Hashem were heard walking in the garden, right? And Shir HaShirim, it says, באתי לגני, right? So we have a concept in the Torah that when you have verses, we have psukim in different places, but they have one common word. This is how you actually learn the Gzera Shava, right? It says X over there, it says X over here. So whatever the topic is, that's the common thing. So Bati Legani from Shir HaShirim, right? It doesn't say to the gan, ela my garden. And then it says in the Bereshit, it Balech Bagan, right? So the garden is the, like the, how you said, the common dominator, right? So he said,
Denominator.
Yeah, dominator.
Denominator.
Denominator, thank you. חטא אדם הראשון, right? The first man sin, נסתלקה השכינה לרקיע הראשון. So the Shechina ran away to the first heaven. חטא קין, Cain had the sin, moved to the second heaven. Enosh, right? That was a generation of idols, went to the third heaven. Dora Mabul, the flood, right? The generation of the flood, he went to the fourth heaven. Dora Migdal, right? Dora Palaga, the one with Nimrod that tried to build the highest tower to fight Hashem. The Shechina went to the fifth heaven. Sodom and Gomorrah, they sinned, sixth heaven. The Egyptian in the time of Avram, right? They took Sarah, etc. The Shechina went all the way up to the seventh heaven. Right? I think there is a song about seven heaven or something like that, maybe Led Zeppelin. כנגדן עמדו 7 צדיקים והורידו לארץ. So we had 7 righteous people that they took the Shechina from each sky and they bring them back here to this world. Avraham have the merit, זכה אברהם הורידה from the 7 to the 6. Yitzchak 6 to the 5th. Yaakov 5th to the 4th. Levi 4th to the 3rd. Kahat 3rd to the 2nd. Amram from the 2nd to the 1st. And Amad Moshe and bring the Shechina from the first heaven to the land. And when we have actually the Shechina, the day when the Mishkan was initiated or built, שנאמר in ספר במדבר, ויהי ביום כלות משה להקים את המשכן, then the Shechina returned to the lower ones, to here. And this is what it said in שיר השירים, באתי לגני אחותי חלה. ויש לומר, המרומז בזה על דרך העבודה. So now this is the hint, this is for us. והנה יש 2 דרכים בעבודת השם. We have two paths in עבודת השם. One path של יחידי סגולה. Right? סגולה, you know, סגולה is something capable. יחידי סגולה is only the unique people. The unique people. Right? These are the יחידי סגולה. And they are the special one. They are elevated into the Kodesh HaKodashim, because they're shaking off this world, right? Because they don't have any relations, any interaction with this olam. And they are in the context of Mi Ale Be'ar Hashem, Umi Yakum B'Makom Kodsho. Who will rise in the mountain of Hashem and who will rise in the place of holiness. Because they are elevated to a higher level. And they need to get to that when they will Mekadesh Kol Evreim, they will sanctify their body, Bechinat Kodesh Kodashim, right? Somebody that his hands are clean, not clean from dirt, but clean from spiritual things, right? Which mean מעשיהם טהורים ונקיים מכל רבב. All their deeds and action are clean. אשר לא נשא לשון, right? And their soul is purified, and they didn't swear, they didn't have any נשבע למרמה. היינו שפיים טוב, just a second. Which means that their avoda is like in the context of like Mount Sinai, the work over there, and they are worshiping Hashem and they're serving Him, even when the Shekhinah is in the seventh heaven, because they're elevated from this world, so they have a connection. This is one path. And there was another path, derech avodat Hashem, which is related, right, shayechet la'anashim yoter pshutim, to the simple people, that they're serving Hashem yitbarach betoch inyan olam hazeh, and they're elevating to Hashem or whatever they do in this world. And they're doing it to do nachat ruach l'Hashem yitbarach, to please Hashem, right? So just to make sure we're all on the same page. These two ways, two paths, is not that one is frum and the other one is not frum. One is frum, very stark, very strong, but he has nothing to do with this world. He doesn't know what is money, doesn't know what is Bitcoin, whatever. He's all to Hashem. And there was another path that somebody that is interacting with whatever is going on in this world, and he's very strong, he's very frum, but he's serving Hashem through this world. And he says, V'hina avot hakadoshim, our holy fathers, they were Kodesh Kodashim. And all their work was in the context of Mi aleh be'ar Hashem, who can actually go up into the mountain of Hashem. And therefore, for them, there was no blockage, there was no curtain, nothing that was preventing them from interacting with the Shekhinah, even when the Shekhinah was in the seventh heaven. Because their avdut, their serving Hashem, was le'ela ve'le'ela, like a very, very praised one. And that was also in Yetziat Mitzrayim. As they said, V'sa etchem al kafei nesharim, right? Hashem like took us on the first class or business class with the Eagle airline, right? V'avi otchem elai, and I bring you to me. By the way, as a side note, something very interesting that I learned, actually, there was something there about Pesach, the first Pesach, they were all celebrated in Eretz Israel. Hashem took them to Pesach, they did the Leil Seder, and they put them back to Egypt. Interesting. So he said, Hashem elevated Israel in the time of the redemption to the seventh heaven, which means elevate them to a higher level in Avodat Hashem, in the like Kodesh HaKodashim. But that was a freebie, that was Itaruta Delela, that was waking up from above, so from heaven, not with an effort. Right? But then in the third month, when it says when they come to Mount Sinai, right? They come on Chodesh Sivan, K'tivu Moshe alai ela Elokim. Then you need actually to go up to Hashem. What does it mean? Moshe hold that he needs to continue his Avodat Hashem in alei ela Elokim, like to go higher and higher and higher and higher, and to go to the spiritual levels, to the spiritual world. But it says, V'ikra elav Elokim min hahar, but Hashem was calling him from the mountain. Hashem hinted him that the divine will wanted that the Shekhinah to be here in this world, which means they should serve Hashem, Ya'avdu Hashem Yitbarach, Gam b'inyanei olam hazeh atachtonim. In the lower level world, this is what Hashem wants us to worshiping here in this world, not to detach ourselves. And he said, this is the purpose of the creation, that Hashem have a desire, spiritual, positive desire, to have a room here, to be able to have a place here in the Tachtonim, in the lower level. Because in heaven, you have lots of servants, which are angels and servants, etc., that they're worshiping Hashem in a higher level, but they don't have even inclination, etc., etc. And Hashem wants us, from all the tradot, vatavot, with all the desires and the trouble and the hardship, and etc., etc., that a Jew will be elevated to Avodat Hashem. This is what Hashem wants. And this is what it says, Ve'yered Hashem al Har Sinai, that Hashem came down to the Mount Sinai. And that actually, Hashem's will were fulfilled, that the Shekhinah went down to the Tachtonim, step by step. And after Har Sinai, we had the commandment, V'asu leMikdash, build me a temple, V'shachanti betocham, and I will dwell within you. Because this is what Hashem wanted to have, a dira b'tachtonim. And this is what our sages says in Shir HaShirim. Right, the crown that his mother gave him, that was Shlomo HaMelech. So he said, ביום חתונתו, in the day of his wedding, and the יום שמחת ליבו, the day of his happy heart. So the יום חתונתו, what's the day of the wedding? That's the Matan Torah. And the day when he was happy, pleased in his heart, that was the Binyan Bet HaMikdash, when they built the Bet HaMikdash. Right? So he said, yes, indeed, Matan Torah, the Shekhinah went down to the Tachtonim. However, still, it was not perfect. And that was not what Hashem was like. It was just part of the plan. The plan was not fulfilled yet. Because after Kabbalat Torah, right, we also had the Shekhinah gone. And only when the Bet HaMikdash was built, like around, what was it, like 400, 500 years after the Ma'amad Har Sinai, only then the Shekhinah came down to dwell in the Bet HaMikdash. This is what it says, Bayom Ekim Moshe et HaMishkan, right? So he said, in the Har Sinai, right, that was like a marriage, like the marriage. But the Yom Simchat Libo was happening in the Binyan Bet HaMikdash. That's the day when the bride actually is coming to home, coming home. And according to that, יש לומר, מאן דאית ברש"י, רש"י when explain על הכתוב, ועשו לי מקדש ועשו לשמי, build me a מקדש and do it for my name, that allegedly it says, מה צריך לומר כאן במיוחד שיהיה לשם השם יותר מכל מצוות? Why here it's so special that it needs to be dedicated to the name of Hashem more than the other mitzvot? Other mitzvot we do also. But the meaning of the commandment של ועשו לי לשמי, do to my name, which means that the house of Hashem will be, in order for him to come like a bride and the groom coming home. So he said, the ena mitzvah rak lasot bayit. It's not only to do a house that for the Shekhinah to dwell, but also to do to my name, like to put the sign with the name on the door. Right? וכן בציווי, and also in the commandment when it says, ויקחו לי תרומה, which is our parsha, right? יקחו לי לשמי. They took for me, for my name. That lechatchila, originally it should be to take it to his house, right? To build the Bet HaMikdash. That's the whole Truma, to build the Mishkan. And by doing that, we will have fulfilling the Hashem will with bringing a Mikdash, and then we can come to his home, which is Bati Legani Achoti Chala, right? That was the first thing. So that commandment was told to the Klal Yisrael, to the nation, right? ועשו לי מקדש ושכנתי בתוכם. The same way he's been told this commandment for each individual from Israel. As it says, and Rashi explained, לדורות, for generation, right? Again, the Torah is always for generation. It's not only for that time, for that moment. Otherwise, the Torah would not bother to write it. So he said, in all the generation, a Jewish commandment to build a mikdash, that he should build his body for a place for the Shekhinah to dwell, as it says betocham, right, within each one of you. In the same way we learned, I think, on Monday and other time, right, that the Bet HaMikdash has tachtim, shneim, shlishim, like the lower one, the middle one, the third one. He had the mitzbeach hachitzon, right, the altar that was outside. They have the echal, the chamber, and they have a kodesh kodashim. So the same thing in our body. We have the brain, the head, right, which is the kodesh kodashim, to enslave our hashkafot, our observation, our opinion to Hashem. And then we have the heart, which is like the heichal, the chamber, which means to give Hashem all our desires and lust and whatever. And then we have the body parts, the lower one, which is really the place when the desire actually been chas v'chalila fulfilled. And that's like equivalent to the mizbeach hachitzon, to the altar that will bring the korbanot. And then it says, ve'esh tamid tukad al mizbeach lo tichbeh. So chas v'chalila, the fire of evil inclination, but here it said, no, that's the esh kodesh, a holy fire that consumed the evil inclination and consumed the desire. And this is what Hashem wants us to have the struggle in this world, not to detach ourselves. And the more we give our desire to Hashem, the more we are elevated. And according to that, it says now, we explain the Mamar, what it says in Tehillim, אחת שאלתי מאת השם אותה אבקש, שבתי בבית השם כל ימי חיי. One request I have from Hashem, I want to dwell in your house all my life. How is it possible? I need to go out to eat, to drink, to do something, right? So how can I sit in the house of Hashem all my life? So he said, the meaning is that he wants his house to be the house of Hashem, a house that everybody fulfill Hashem's will. In a house that they sacrifices and they have the fire of holiness, right? The Kodesh and everything. So we can say, okay, this is our private home that we want it to be sanctified, but also we can say that my place, my home is myself. That my brain should be clean with that Torah, my heart should be also with positive desires to Hashem, etc., etc. And this is the work that we need to do. And this is this part here is the most difficult one, but that actually will fulfill Hashem's will, that He created the world, He created all the desires, the evil inclination, etc., etc., and He put us here to fight it. And when we win, Hashem win, and Hashem is with us. Thank you for listening, and have a Shabbat Shalom.